Two of the biggest challenges I see people face with GAMSAT problems is the ability to find information and then the ability to use this information to reach an answer. Today, I'm going to give you a simple framework that you can implement that will improve your approach to finding relevant information and problem solving your way to an answer. Hey everyone, my name's James. I'm a second year medical student and Section 3 tutor, having scored 77 on the exam a few years ago. I wanted to make this video because, as I discussed in the intro, a lot of my students seem to struggle with actually problem solving and finding information in the exam. So I wanted to give you this as kind of a little tool that you can use and see improvement in how you approach GAMSAT problems. Please remember to like the video if you find it useful, give me any feedback in the comments and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. Okay, so we will go through a worked example of this framework a little bit later on, but before we did that, I just wanted to get one thing straight, and that's that generally the information in the GAMSAT problems is not there to help you. It's usually very long and very vague, and really what it's there to do is make you spend a lot of time and get confused and make mistakes. So the people who do really well on the exam are those who can very quickly find the relevant pieces of information and spend a lot of time understanding that and applying that to the problem at hand. So when we go through this framework, I want you to keep that in mind. And that's the goal of this framework, is really to help you find the information and then also just give you a little bit of a hint in ways that you can use that information to solve the problem. All right, so here we are with a practice problem. Now, as I look at this, there's quite a lot of text, there's quite a lot of variables, there's some formulas, there's this diagram, and already you just feel like it's quite confusing and it's going to take you a very long time to understand this in sufficient detail to be able to answer the questions. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to get you to spend time on this rather than actually working out with less information how to get to one of the answers. So we will do this as we go through, but this is also a really good experiment and I think demonstrates the point, is once you've solved a question, actually see how much information you needed. So you could just highlight the bits of relevant information that you used, and I guarantee it's not going to be a large amount of the question. If I was to guess, I would say between around 30%, I think, of the information is things that you will use throughout the STEM. So hopefully I've convinced you that we want to skip the STEM and go straight to the question. And the point of this is that we then use the question as a bit of a filter to find the relevant pieces of information in the STEM that we need to use. The only issue here is that as we get to the question, a lot of the time it's actually quite confusingly worded, much like the STEM. And again, that is there to confuse you. So what I've come up with is this rule called the 3 words rule. So what that means is we need to pretend that we need to explain this question to someone who's never seen it and will get no additional information other than the 3 words that we tell them. So it's obviously not going to be a complete or coherent sentence, but I do believe that it's possible to get sufficient detail into 3 words such that you can actually explain what that question is about. So really play around with this. Go to questions and pick out the 3 words and ask yourself honestly, do these 3 words tell me what I need to do next? Do they give me enough information about the question? And do I know what I'm going back to the STEM to look for? If those 3 words don't tell you what you need to go back and look for, I think you've picked the wrong 3 words. Okay, so coming back to the question, let's give it a go. If you wanted to have a go yourself, feel free to pause this video and have a look at this question and just ask yourself what the 3 keywords are that you would pick, and then you can compare it with mine, which I'll show you in a second. So hopefully that was enough of a delay if you did want to have a go, but the 3 words that I would pick are speed. I'd actually put a different word in here, which is equation, and I would also use S3. So speed, equation, S3. Now ask yourself, just by hearing those 3 words, you already know that we need an equation for speed and it needs to somehow relate to S3. So I think that those 3 words really capture everything that the question is about very succinctly. Now, are these the only 3 words which capture what the question's about? Absolutely not. But it just shows you that it is possible to kind of reduce any of these questions into 3 words. Now, once we've got the 3 words, we then want to just remember that. So speed, equation, S3, and we want to go back to the stem and just basically skim through it for those 3 words and absolutely nothing else. So this is kind of me. You can see me looking at the camera. When I look down, that's literally how quickly I'm reading it. So as I'm going through, I'm looking, and I see S3 here. So I think that something in this paragraph might be useful. And I'm looking through and I'm seeing speed here in these formulas. So generally formulas are going to be more useful. And we can see that there is speed there in the V, so velocity. So now once we've found the relevant information, we've kind of done half of the job. We've used the information and we've very quickly gone through and we think that all of this stuff that we've highlighted is relevant. And as I said before, you can see that it's not a large amount of the text. What I would then recommend is once you have that, really try to understand that part of the text because you know that that's going to be relevant, or it's more likely that that will be relevant. So we can understand that and we can kind of get a little bit more of a feel for the question. But really, because I know that I need an equation, remember equation, speed, S3, really what I'm probably putting more weight on is this equation here. So I might think, all right, well, what if I just rearrange this equation for velocity because I need an equation for speed? So I'll get V equals F over QB. And then I think, okay, well, that's really good. Go back to the answers, and unfortunately, that's not one of my answers. So this is kind of how I think about problem solving in the GAMSAT, is you find the information and then you reach a hurdle. And when you reach that hurdle, you need to think about how can I jump over? And that's where the second part of this framework comes in. So I've just written in the equation that we have, and we can see that we're on the right track. And if you feel like you're on the right track, you probably are, okay? So when I'm in this position now, I've reached my hurdle, I don't know what to do. I think that it's really important that you ask yourself a lot of questions. So something that I might ask myself is, what is the problem? Why can't I just use this? And from that, you'll identify that in all of these options, you've got B, E, E, B, whatever, in different orders. And in your equation, you've only got B. So the reason that we can't use this equation is because we have an F and we have a Q. So once you've identified the problem, you can start thinking about ways that you've solved similar problems in the past. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking really what I want to do is cancel out these units somehow. And I think, well, how can I cancel units? I need to have, in the past, if I could somehow get a Q in the numerator and an F in the denominator, then they would cancel out, because I know from past experience that having a variable in the numerator and the denominator means they cancel out. So if I could do that, then that would be great. That would be problem solved. So you're already starting to think about what you need, and you think, how could I do that? How could I actually start introducing variables? And then hopefully you can come to the conclusion that, well, in the past, you have substituted formulas for other variables. So maybe this equation here, this second equation, is actually quite relevant. So F equals QE. So if we go back, F equals QE, and then all of a sudden it becomes quite clear how this is going to work, because you can see that all of these things are going to cancel out if you substitute F for F. So you end up getting V equals QE over QB, and then the Q's cancel out, so we get E over B. And just in case there was an answer here like E over B2 or something like that, you can verify your answer because you have S3 as a keyword. So you can go back to the part of text which you highlighted, and you can see that in the part of text that I highlighted, they're talking about B1. So that's how you can kind of get further clarification by shifting between the text. But again, it's just about finding those relevant parts of text and understanding them really well. So although that's a really simple framework, if you're having trouble with those things, so finding relevant information and getting through problems, try both of these techniques. Try asking yourself, what are the 3 key words I need to reduce the question into? And once you have problems, ask yourself those really important questions about what's stopping me and what's a time when I have overcome a similar challenge in the past. And I guarantee just doing those 2 things will really help you in your GAMSAT preparation. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have, again, like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.